Women that are involved in sex work are simply not good people. When you deal with women that have had to do deplorable things like this to make money, her innocence is gone. When a woman's innocence is gone, the glass is effectively shattered and she can no longer hold water. You know what that water is? That's her being able to respect you. That's her following your lead. That's her not being a whore. That's her being submissive and docile. That's her being innocent. All of that is gone. I'm telling you guys this because this is exactly the cloth that someone like a Cardi B is cut from. Despite the fact that she has all this money, despite the fact that she's successful, despite the fact that she's famous, she still can't get a guy to take her seriously. Why? Well, regardless of woman's status and income, whores are whores. Doesn't matter. And people like Cardi B, guys, they're cooked. There is nothing worse than being a female sex worker that's rich. You're fucking air fried, bro. Guys, this is why I tell y'all, bro, that this is why it's so imperative, man, to be careful of the women that you date and the women that you take seriously. Because when you date a girl, you wife her up, you have kids with her, you're going to be stuck with that chick. And to a degree, if you, especially if you have kids. And I guess Offset, right, did this more from a career perspective, but he's still going to pay the price, right? She talks shit to him crazy. She makes him look wild on the internet, says a whole bunch of things about him publicly for cheating. So for the men, the lesson is don't wife up hoes. This girl, Cardi B, used to be a stripper, okay? Women that come from the sex work world are to never, ever, ever be taken seriously, bro. Okay? And the reason for this, guys, is because women that are involved in sex work are simply not good people. All right, let me explain what I mean by this. So when you meet a girl, right, and you hang out with her and, you know, you're getting to know her and everything else like that, there's certain women that you're just not able to properly lead as a man. As you guys know, when you come into a relationship, it's your job to be the leader, the provider, protector, etc. But you need to be that man for the right girl. Trying to be a protector, provider, and a good husband and a good man to a woman that's a former sex worker is almost never going to work because women that are sex workers are just not good people. I said it. All right? They're just not good people. All right? And when I mean this, that they're not good people, I mean as in they're not good people for you to get into a relationship with. Terrible. All right? Does it mean that they're evil? They're inherently, you know, awful people? No. But they're not good people when it comes to the perspective of she's not going to properly honor you as her man. And the reason for that is because women that do sex work have to get their state of mind to a certain level that is damn near impossible to come from. Does that make sense? A woman's main commodity and her main agency is her body and her sexuality. That is her most prized possession. Right? For her to be able to get naked in front of other men or to have sex for money or to basically use her most valuable asset and degrade it for monetary compensation, it takes a certain level of mindset to get to that position because it's not the norm, okay? It's not the norm. How do I know that? Because the only girls that get into sex work, whether it's OnlyFans, stripping, etc., they do it out of a place of desperation. They're not doing it from a position of they want to do it. They're doing it from a position of, oh, I am desperate. I want to make money. I want to do it. Now, this is why I have even less respect for girls like Jasmine Jafar, who were, you know, she had her law degree or whatever the fuck. She went to law school and she's still being a slut. Like that right there, unacceptable. That's a L, okay? That's a big L. Now, some of these women are just retarded like her and just go into sex work for no reason, not out of necessity. Rather, they do it because they're greedy. Those are the worst. But that's all of the conversation. But most of the time when women get into sex work, it's because they're broke, okay? And they're trying to make ends meet. Same thing with Cardi B. When you're struggling financially, you're having a tough time, you're going to have to do deplorable things sometimes when you do sex work to make that money and get, you know, pay for your bills or whatever it is. So you have to get to a certain mindset. That mindset, guys, is a state where you never want to deal with women that have reached that level. Now, why? You guys are probably wondering, well, Myron, you know, everybody has a tough life. Everyone goes through adversity. Like, why are you so, you know, why are you being so difficult on this? The reason why, chat, is because women are sensitive creatures, okay? They're not like us, okay? I kind of look at women like glass. If you drop a cup of glass, right, and it shatters into a million pieces, even if you try to glue it back and tape it back and all this other shit, and you poured water into it, it's always going to leak, right? It's never going to be able to hold water in the same way ever again. So when you deal with women that have had to do deplorable things like this to make money, right, so doing sex work or whatever, her innocence is gone. When a woman's innocence is gone, the glass is effectively shattered and she can no longer hold water. You know what that water is? That's her being able to respect you. That's her following your lead. That's her not being a whore. That's her being submissive and docile. That's her being innocent. All of that is gone. And no matter how much a woman represses it, she is going to get trauma from being a sex worker. I'm sure many of you guys have been in strip clubs. Strip clubs don't necessarily attract the most upstanding of individuals, if you catch my drift. A lot of criminals, degenerates, weirdos, fucking slumlords, pretty much. Okay? It's actually a big reason why I don't like strip clubs and I don't like clubs in general. Nightlife tends to attract a lot of degenerates. Now imagine being in these locations every other day or every weekend for a couple of days, meeting these strange individuals, right? And interacting with them and doing things that you might not necessarily want to do. This is why most strippers, guys, do drugs or drink alcohol when they go to work. Because no girl in her right mind wants to sit there and get naked in front of a stranger, okay? No girl wants to do that. No little girl grows up and says, I want to be a stripper when I grow up. No. They want to be a mom. Maybe they want to go to school, get educated, whatever. But no one dreams or no one says, I want to go ahead and be a dancer. Most of the time, women do it out of necessity. No girl says, I want to be a porn star. They do it out of necessity. No girl says, I want to go ahead and be an OnlyFans star. They do it out of necessity. And laziness a lot of the times, too. So, since women have to get to this certain place mentally to be able to do this fucking deplorable work, they get a certain level of trauma where they will no longer be able to respect you. And here's the other ugly part, too, that you guys need to know. When women do sex work, right? Another very, very ugly truth that you guys need to know. And I actually don't blame them for this. Actually, this part, what I'm going to say here is I actually don't blame them for this. They start to hate men. Okay? I'm going to say that again for you guys. When women do sex work, they start to resent and hate men. Why? Because when you do sex work and you're doing this shit, you're dealing with, like, a lot of the times the lowest demographic of men that are just horn dogs and pieces of shit. Okay? You see all the worst parts of male sexuality. So a lot of these girls that do this type of work get trauma that they'll never be able to unsee. They see all the most unflattering parts of men. The worst side, right? The perverts, the creeps, the weirdos. Some guys are into some weird shit. And as a sex worker, you see all that. I'll give you guys a scenario of what I mean by this. Some of you guys have probably already dealt with this, but imagine a scenario where you're going out with women. Every single time you go out with women, all they do is use you for money. You never get laid. You never get actual real validation or attention. You never get respect. Every time you deal with women, they're just using you for fucking dinner. And you can never get fucking laid. Well, after a good period of time, you're going to start to resent women more than likely. You're going to naturally harbor some resentment towards them over a prolonged period of time for them abusing you in this way, right? This is precisely the level of resentment that women experience on their end when they're sex workers, okay? Does that make sense, chat? Because I really want you guys to understand this. As a man, if you were to get used by women every single day, just for dinner, you're spending $100, $200 a night, and you're not getting laid, you're not getting attention, nothing, you're going to naturally harbor resentment towards all women, right? That feeling of being used and being angry and frustrated with the opposite gender, that's exactly how females feel when it comes to them doing sex work. Now, they're obviously not going to overtly say this because they understand that men are their clientele. So they have to kind of put on a face and do it like as if they're happy, but they're not. I promise you guys, every single one of these female porn stars, every single one of these dancers, every single one of these OnlyFans girls, they hate these motherfuckers. They hate them. This is why women that do sex work a lot of times end up hating men and they don't respect their fans. If you guys want to see something cringy, go to a porn convention and look at a female porn star as she sits there and there's a line of guys waiting to take a picture with her. I want you guys to look at her face. She's going to put on the fake smile. Hi, yeah, hi. But as soon as that motherfucker, walks up and gives her flowers like he's a fucking simp or whatever, she's going to just roll her eyes and be like, oh, get the fuck out of here. I don't need this fucking guy. Like, this guy's a weirdo. But they understand that it's a means to an end to continue to make money. So they start to resent and hate the very group of people that pay their bills. And that's how women feel in sex work, just like how you would feel if you were being used all the time. And then on top of that, it makes it very difficult for her to trust men in the future and respect men. They start to look at men as a commodity instead of an asset that could take care of them and protect them because they've been treated so poorly by men all throughout their life. So they harbor this resentment for a very long time, and it's very difficult for them to submit to a man and be with a man. Now, let's fast forward. Why am I telling you guys this? I'm telling you guys this because this is exactly the cloth that someone like a Cardi B is cut from. Despite the fact that she has all this money, despite the fact that she's successful, despite the fact that she's famous, she still can't get a guy to take her seriously. Why? Well, regardless of woman's status and income, whores are whores. Doesn't matter. I think Offset knew this deep down. So he never really respected her as like a real wife. Hence why he was cheating on her all the time. Now, another thing about strippers as well that they tend to be delusional about, especially ones that got money and think that they're hot, is they think that men should be loyal to them. That's another crazy part for women. They think, oh, even though I'm a sex worker and I don't deserve monogamy, I'm going to demand it. Yeah, you heard that right. Women that are in sex work feel as though they deserve monogamy no matter what. So in other words, they can behave like whores, be whores, have a whore past, but they expect the treatment of a saint. They basically make the same demands as a virgin bride, but they're whores. And this is where Hoeflation comes in. Because you got girls that are hoes with a deplorable past sitting there thinking that they deserve the future of a girl who preserved herself throughout her youth. Why do we have this? We have this because we have this society where no one tells women the truth about anything. Even delusional sex workers think that they deserve a top-tier guy. She was delusional to think that this NFL player was going to take her seriously. Of course not. Of course not. But since she has money and fame, she's delusional. And people like Cardi B, guys, right? They're cooked. There is nothing worse than being a female sex worker that's rich. You're fucking air fried, bro. Air fried. Because not only are you bottom of the fucking barrel when it comes to women and it comes to pickings, but now you're bottom of the barrel, but you want top of the fucking barrel standards. So in other words, women that are sex workers write checks that they can't fucking cash. They got a 400 credit score, but they're trying to apply for a fucking Amex Platinum. That's literally what it is when it comes to girls that are 304s. It's the equivalent of a girl that's a 304 going into a bank with a 400 credit score saying, oh yeah, give me the loan because I got a nice bag. The banker's going to be like, I don't give a fuck about your bag. Your credit score's 400. I'm good. We can't take you as a client. Sayonara. But this is how women operate. Because when she was out in the real world, everyone was telling her, you got a nice bag, you'll get approved for that loan. You see where I'm coming from with this, guys? Say this again for you guys so you really understand this shit. We live in a world where a woman will have, from a metaphor perspective, a 400 credit score and try to get a loan on $1 million house with no fucking money in the bank, going to the bank, saying, hey, I want a loan on this $1 million house, even though my credit score sucks and I have no money in the bank, but give it to me because I have this nice purse. The banker looks at her like, what?
Bombakat!
Sorry, nice purse, but that's not what qualifies you for the loan. Sorry, denied. We're good, right?
Denied.
But throughout her entire life, she's grown up and women told her and her friends, oh, don't worry about it. You can have a 400 credit score. You can have no money in the bank. You'll still get the loan. Go to the bank anyway. Bring your nicest purse. They'll really respect you for having that purse and they'll give you the loan. And she gets to the fucking bank, gets denied of the loan, and wonders why she didn't get the fucking loan. Because no one told her the truth that, hey, dumb bitch, have good practices, save your money, don't fucking spend more than you make, have some money in the bank, and then go get approved in the loan. That dumb bitch gets denied at the fucking bank. No thank you, right?
Denied.
Then another girl comes in with a good credit score, with some money in the bank. She gets approved for the loan. You want to know who that girl is? That's the girl that wasn't a whore in her 20s. That's the girl that came from a good family. That's the girl that had some fucking self-respect. That's the girl that chose to work a waitress job or work some other lower wage job when they're in college instead of stripping. That's the girl that didn't sell her soul. Now, she could go ahead and get the loan and buy her dream home. And that is the difference, my friends. We tell these dumb hoes with a 400 credit score they deserve $1 million homes, but they don't. And they often write checks that they can't cash. So it's your job as the banker to identify the women that have shitty credit scores and no money in the bank. But the problem with a lot of you stupid niggas is you guys sit there as the banker and you still give the bitch the loan. And then you get mad when you don't get paid every month, when she's delinquent, house goes into foreclosure, and guess who eats the fucking bill? You do. Because you gave the loan, you had the parameters set, and she couldn't stick to it because she didn't have no money, and her credit score sucks. But your dumbass picked her. Why? Because she came into the bank with a nice purse. So the moral of the story is this, guys. Don't be like Offset and give loans to bitches like he did that are not qualified for the loan. Don't do it. Good credit score, money in the bank, then you give her the loan. And that is going to be your provisioning, your security, etc., your masculinity. Make women earn that shit. They need to come to the bank ready. Payment stubs and everything. If some of you guys exercise proper discretion like these banks do with these hoes, you guys would be better off. Seriously. Be a banker, guys. Be a banker. Anyway,